Hello, I'm Tara Brabazon. I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University, and welcome to vlog 147, Difficult Situations. Ooh. This vlog has had lots of different types of requests that have drawn me into this particular conversation. What's happened is students have asked for vlogs on difficult supervisors. Supervisors have asked for vlogs on difficult students, and I've been getting some pretty horrific requests that have been asking for how to have difficult conversations. Now, even the phrase difficult conversations sort of makes my heart pump a little bit more. You know, when someone says, we're about to have a difficult conversation, boof, boof, boof. So all these phrases sort of upset me and freak me out a bit. So whenever I receive requests, I always wonder, what exactly is the person after? What do they want? And whenever the word difficult as an adjective is used in relationship to people, difficult people, I think the person is trying to talk about something else. And I think what they're trying to talk about is they're saying, that person over there is incredibly difficult. I'm terrific. I'm absolutely fantastic. I'm terrific. And that person over there is difficult. So I need you to help me to have a difficult conversation with that difficult person, obviously a couple of Chardonnays in, so I can explain to them exactly what's wrong with them. I can catalogue all their problems, all their issues and all my concerns with them in one fantastically offensive and disrespectful, difficult conversation. Great. So all of this is going incredibly well. Now, to be frank with you, I'm not going to go there. And what I do want to explore this week is actually the meta point of all of that, and that is the difficult situation. What I want to do is log in the PhD space, what are those difficult situations, what leads into them, what happens after them, and yes, how we avoid them. Because I don't want to wallow in a culture of blame. Let's blame the supervisor, let's blame the student. And you know why? Because that's not helpful to anybody. All of us in life have to manage difficult people. And supposedly none of us are actually difficult. So you can see what's occurring here. Like, the world is filled with difficult people, except me. I'm tremendous, and I need to overshare with these people about how difficult they are, right? So bless. What I'm suggesting is all of us, even if you don't think you're difficult, we all are, let's be honest, but even if you go, oh look, I'm fantastic and that person over there is difficult, what I want you to perhaps think about today is your role in contributing to a difficult situation and how perhaps we can avoid them. Look at those flash points and flash moments, see them and avoid them. And what I'd like us to try and do, if we can, is grasp in real time when we're losing control of a situation. This is as a supervisor and as a student, by the way, when we've got a sense, right, we're losing control of this. Recognise it in real time and do something to avoid those unsayable questions and try and preserve the candidature. Now, I've had a lot of students and a lot of staff in my office in the last few weeks. I think Christmas particularly enables these sorts of conversations. And they've all come into my office and reported something that a student or a supervisor has said. And look, that phrase has been absolutely terrible and it has taken my breath away. It's often what I describe as saying the unsayable. And that is horrific. But think about it. Your supervisor has said one thing that is hurtful in 3 years. Now, are you going to throw your candidature away on the basis of that? So for me, yes, absolutely. We should always avoid saying the unsayable. This is a workplace, and therefore all of us, and this includes me, must maintain a very strong sense of ourselves and control of ourselves, and we need to stop those words coming out of our mouths before they are said. So here are my 10 strategies to watch, to manage, to regain control, and to pick one of these difficult situations and diffuse it as quickly as possible. 1. Ignore the tone and focus on the content. So many staff, so many students get terribly offended at the tone that is deployed, the tone by either a supervisor or a student or fellow students. Now, we all know that cliche, I think, from when we were kids, and my father used to use this all the time. Hi, Big Kev. Don't use that tone with me, young lady. Don't use that tone with me, young lady. And of course, the great thing is the tone comes back, so it's terrific. Now, let's be honest. Tone doesn't really matter at all. It doesn't matter at all. Content is the key. So what I'm suggesting to you is don't look for every disrespect between and behind every sentence, every email, every conversation, every meeting. Don't look for disrespect, and you know what? You probably won't find it. Instead, go into every meeting with a clear agenda, a clear purpose, a clear goal. Difficult situations emerge if students and supervisors talk past each other. They both think they know what's going on and they don't. Therefore, frame every single supervisory meeting with a goal, a mission, a purpose and agenda. Make it tightly framed. So don't run PhD meetings around a vibe. A vibe is the path to a difficult situation. So arrive with a question, a problem, an issue. That's going to go incredibly well. Now, a lot of our wonderful students, arrive into their supervisory meeting every week with an agenda. So they come in, this is the agenda, the supervisor has the agenda, and you go through the agenda. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Knock yourself out, brilliant. Many students use the SMART protocols in the meeting, and let's get SMART right. Specific, measurable, achievable, where am I at? Realistic, I always go reasonable or realistic. Realistic and time bound. So that's great. They use the SMART protocols. That works tremendously well. Fantastic. But the bottom line is, if you focus on generalised nonsense, so you're going, oh, how's it going? How's your week been? What's the weather like? Then that's going to lead to ambiguity and create problems. With my students, I do something very simple. Sort of 3 stages, really. What have you done this week? Any problems or issues, what went well? What's the meta point we learned from the thesis? And the final component is, what are we doing in the following week? And how is that going to contribute to the thesis? So focus on the what, and then focus on the why. And that's the way you focus the meeting. Okay, so focus and frame everything around the project. 3, remember that supervisors and students are human. Every single one of us has shockingly bad days. Don't judge a supervisor, don't judge a fellow student as a result of that one bad day. Remember the hundreds of positive conversations and engagements you've had with that person. And let me just offer a bit of a life experience commentary here. None of us will ever know the day-to-day tragedies that another person carries around with them. So while you're focusing on your thesis, me, my thesis, me, I'm terribly important, talk about my thesis, while you're doing that, the person that you're talking to, your supervisor, may have just received the worst news of their entire life. And they're just about holding it together. They're a bit tight, they're a bit brittle, but they're trying to hold themselves together at work. They're just hanging on. So don't judge them on that day, or indeed any day. The great Eleanor Roosevelt said, quote, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." So don't focus on the slight. Don't go, oh, I'm a bit offended, that tone. Oh, that was a bit sharp today. Don't focus on the tone. Focus on the content. Remember, if you're going to be offended, you've consented to that. You know, because people can say all sorts of stuff. If it bounces off you, you're not offended. You have to consent to the offence. So focus on the thesis, focus on the problems to be solved, focus on the content. And give people, supervisors, students, citizens walking the earth, give people the privacy and the space to live in their own tragedies for a while. Gain support, gain supervision from your supervisor, but always remember, you have absolutely no idea what another human being is dealing with at home. So don't judge them, all right? No judgment. Four, don't complain. Really, really, really don't complain. Complainers create dreadful situations. Complainers create these dreadful situations. They're boring, they're self-absorbed, and they're lazy. Every time you feel a complaint coming out of your throat, you're complaining about somebody else, stop yourself. The moment you stop complaining, you create a better environment for yourself, a better environment for your peers, a better environment for your family, a better environment for your supervisor. So stop the complaints, don't complain, and instead reflect. 5, avoid balloons. I love balloons. I just love balloons. I think they're one of the few objects on planet Earth that are simply created for happiness. And I love that. That's absolutely fantastic. So when I'm saying avoid balloons, it's not these fantastically fabulous objects. It is the know-it-alls that are filled with hot air that we call balloons. Yep. So you know when you're dealing with a balloon, because universities are filled with balloons. You know, those people that simply want to overshare how truly fantastic they are. And at every possible opportunity, they will share with you their career narrative. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So whenever you meet them, it's like, have I told you about when I was at Imperial? Have I told you when I was at Melbourne? Did I tell you about my recent contract? Me. Now, can I say they're very bad supervisors, they're very bad students, they're very bad citizens, okay, these balloons. Because you need to try and focus them, not on themselves, because why they're focusing on themselves is to make you feel small, okay? So don't feel small, don't engage with the balloon, focus on tasks. Move it from them to the goal or the task of the supervision. And when you do that, when you focus on the tasks, yes, I'm going to do it. Oh, wow. When you focus on the tasks, oh, that was seriously cool. You prick the balloon, knock yourself out. 6, do not expect your supervisor to solve all your problems. To quote Monty Python's Life of Brian, he's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy. To change genders, she's not the Messiah, she's a very naughty girl. So you have friends, colleagues, family members, partners, mates you go to the gym with, librarians, the Office of Graduate Research. You have a diversity of support structures around you. So don't put all your eggs in the supervisory basket, okay? You need to diversify your needs, what you require, through your friends, through your partner, through your family, through institutional support. Do not create an all or nothing relationship with your supervisor, because that is the path to difficult conversations. And can I say, this problem will also solve the 2 archetypes that we're seeing in supervision at the moment, and that is the absent supervisor or the overbearing supervisor, the helicopter supervisor. The absent supervisor has simply given up on you. They've just got sick to death of either the complaints or asking you to do something, you don't do it, you don't take the feedback, so they just go, well look, sort yourself out. When you've sorted yourself out, you come back and see me. So that's often the absent supervisor. And the overbearing supervisor is, wow, this person really can't manage. They're asking me, you know, how to take a breath every 2 seconds. So at that point, I'm going to have to take control of this thesis, and that's the overbearing supervisor. Both of those situations are caused by a student appearing too needy of a supervisor. So use the supervisor for supervision, and use your mates and your friends and your gym companions for all the other stuff. Create a suite of support. 7, control your emotions. You are enrolled in a PhD. You are not Brooke or Ridge in Bold and the Beautiful. You're not. Every day, wake up and be really, really crystalline clear with your goals and your expectations and what you want to do for the day. And stop your research getting slashed or tangled in your emotional life. So find strategies to manage your emotions. It may be exercise, it may be walking, it may be yoga, it might be apple cider vinegar. I know people that run their life through apple cider vinegar, supposedly with the mother. I have no idea what any of this means, but I've got an apple cider vinegar. People swear by this for doing something. I'm uncertain what it is. But use anything except sort of that emotional mess that you're putting on all the people around you. Do not arrive at a supervisory meeting in an emotional state. Please don't do this, because you know if it starts at that heightened state, you know where it's going to go. So for example, when I have a student who arrives in a meeting and wow, they're turned up to 11, to quote Spinal Tap, I say, right, well, clearly you're upset. Right, what we're going to do now is actually we're not going to have this meeting. What I'd like you to do is go away and write on a piece of paper or via email the 3 or 4 things that are troubling you, and we will both think through those for the week, and we'll regroup in a week's time when everything's calmer and we've come up with some solutions, okay? So I don't allow those heightened meetings to even progress, because I know, right, well, it started pretty wild, it's going to finish in a disco, and we need to stop that. So remember also, you are using all this emotional stuff for a reason, aren't you? Resentment, jealousy, angst, anger, all of that really exists, doesn't it? To cover your lack of work, your lack of research. All that emotional stuff is actually an excuse, isn't it? So students arrive in a heightened state in my office when they're unprepared or underprepared, or I've asked them to do work by a particular date and they have not delivered. So instead of actually going, you know what, I didn't work hard enough, I'm not delivering that work, it's always about something else. So you know what, for me, no excuses, just do your work. And it is important to be really honest. Instead of putting the emotional stuff everywhere else, look in the mirror and be honest, at least to yourself before others. 8, important one I think, listen to feedback, improve your research, and don't take it personally. Now, criticism is difficult for all of us to take. It creates that sort of defensive thing, like, it creates that defensive sort of response from all of us. But the point is, you're not going to improve as a researcher. Your thesis is not going to improve without feedback. So what you've got to do, a few strategies here, remove the emotional stuff and focus on the content. And the other thing I recommend, particularly this week, is engage with your supervisor through the feedback. So in other words, if it's track changes, print it out and bring it to a meeting and have a chat about some of those comment boxes. So, right, so in chapter 3, on page 25, you said this in this comment box, right? So what did you mean by that and how do I address it? So get rid of the emotion and actually allow yourself to improve through engaging with the feedback through dialogue. And therefore your supervisor might have gone, oh, I was a bit harsh there. Sorry about that, I was a bit frustrated, I was a bit tired, but what I meant is this. Right, so engage with the feedback through a series of questions. And remember, the whole point of supervision is to improve your research. That is what feedback is for. 9, control your use of email. Ambiguity and really weird stuff emerges through email. I treat email as formal correspondence, to be frank. Every email I write, I assume it's going to be read out in a court of law. And I don't write anything that I'm not happy for my mother or the Vice-Chancellor of this university to read. That's how seriously I take email. Never treat it as a text, never treat it as sort of a chat or a dialogue. For me, it organises meetings, it sends work back, and it also offers a particular meta-commentary if things are going wrong. So, hello Michael, this has occurred, this is worrying me for this reason, in the next meeting let's discuss this, boom. So don't look for a negative tone, don't look for a positive tone, use email as formal correspondence. 10, recognise the real deal breakers. This vlog has been about managing difficult situations. So the cut and thrust of what happens in a day-to-day supervisory relationship, predicting when some tough or challenging things may emerge and then intervening so that they don't fester, right? That's what today's been about. But there are issues that have to be logged and addressed and tracked and managed in real time. They have to be addressed immediately. They are sexual harassment, sexual assault, racism, any form of xenophobia, ableism or ageism. In real time, these have to be addressed. So the priority for all of us who work in universities is to create a culturally safe environment for you. This is really, really serious. So you have a right to be culturally safe. Your supervisor must be professional, and so must you. Because remember, we did, I think, a gig on complaints a couple of months ago, and remember there were complaints the other way too, where students were doing some pretty odd stuff with supervisors as well. So these days, it is very important to stop any blurring of categories. Your supervisor is not your friend. They are supervising you. It is a special and specialist relationship that's different from every other relationship you will have in your life. They may become your friends, but it will be after the candidature, and there has to be very careful change management in place to ensure the relationship is on a more equal footing. Now, for example, when I supervise, my office door is always open. This is a public conversation. So this is not something private or anything like that at all. Door open, always. I've always had doors open in teaching and learning for 25 years for that reason. And also, I don't have students around to my house. Students, no one knows my address, very private, and no one has my mobile phone number. No one knows it, and there's a reason for that. These are professional boundaries, so students can't come around to my house because they don't know where I live. They can't send me a text or phone or whatever because they don't have the number. So I maintain very clear boundaries to stop any ambiguity from any student. They are my students. It's a very precious relationship, but it's not a friendship. So the moment that a student feels threatened, harassed, intimidated, sexually, racially, with regard to age, with regard to impairment, that is the deal breaker. Now, what I need you to do, and this is incredibly difficult, is state, if you can, in the moment, that behaviour is unacceptable. If you can. I understand in the overwhelming majority of cases, you'll be in shock, you'll be freaked out, you'll be concerned, and you won't be able to get the words out, and that's absolutely fine. What you do need to do is get away from that situation physically. So I need you to pick yourself up and move yourself somewhere safe. Find a safe person. Tell them what has happened and let them help you get safer. Full stop. And the final reminder to us all, I think, and this is why I think I am so fixated on a PhD being 3 years of candidature. There are many reasons for it, for your life as students, but I think one of the reasons I'm so focused on it is because it is a very intense relationship, and 3 years is about as long as you can sustain that intensity. Something will happen beyond 3 years. Something will be said, an offence will be taken, and it'll all go a bit bonkers. So it gets weird the longer the relationship goes. Two people cannot communicate with that level of intensity and that level of pressure without something a bit weird occurring. So what I'd say to you is, keep it professional, keep it caring, keep it trusting, know the boundaries, focus on the research, don't focus on the tone, and conclude the candidature with care and with decency. As I always say, compassion and understanding never started any wars. I wish you love, light, and peace. Tea out.